Today we'll be making Sundubu-jjigae, a spicy and flavorful hot soup topped with extra soft tofu. Sundubu-jjigae rivals, if not surpasses, kimchi jjigae in taste, but is less well known. In this video, I'll show you how to make this simple and delicious soup in just a few minutes. For the main ingredients, you'll need dried or fresh mushrooms, ground pork, garlic cloves, green onions, serrano peppers, extra soft tofu, and canned or fresh clams. First, since I'm using dried shiitake mushrooms, I'm going to rehydrate them in some water. I'm also going to use this broth as my liquid base instead of regular water if I need to add more fluid into my soup. Next, I'm going to wash the green onions. Under cold water, clean the green onions by washing off the slimy exterior layers of the green onions. Most of it is found near the roots. If you do see some discolored parts, discard them as well. Once the green onions are washed, it is time to chop the white parts of the green onions into centimeter chunks. We'll be throwing this part into the pot we'll be cooking the soup in. Usually in Korea they come in these clay/stone pots where they retain a lot of heat and remain even boiling for a few minutes even after they're served, but any pot is perfectly fine. Next, we're going to chop around 6 to 7 cloves of garlic. I'm going to first cut them into thin vertical slivers and then cut them horizontally to get that very fine chopped garlic. If you have minced garlic, a tablespoon of minced garlic is an appropriate substitute. Then throw it into the pot as well. We will be frying the green onions and the chopped garlic in some oil to get that scented oil for the base. Similar to the diced garlic, I'm going to dice up half an onion. Leave the onions aside on your cutting board. We will be adding them into the soup later so they can retain some texture and not go full on mush. Now to add some heat. I'm going to chop up some serranos. If you can't handle the spice, you can de-seed the serranos or even omit them, but Sundubu-jjigae is usually known for being spicy and piping hot, so you do you. Now that we have some room on the cutting board, I'm going to chop up the rest of the green onions. Most of them are going to be put back into the refrigerator for storage, but keep some aside so you can top up the soup with it. It brings that freshness and texture to the soup. The last step of prep is to fish out the dried shiitake mushrooms and slice it up finely. We're going to put it into the soup later, so put it aside for now. I usually omit the stems of the dried mushroom because they can be a bit tough even when rehydrated. Now move your pot with green onions and garlic to the stove and turn on the fire onto medium heat. Then add a tablespoon of sesame oil for that nuttiness and richness. Once the sesame oil has been added, add a tablespoon of olive oil or neutral oil. Lightly fry the garlic and green onions. This will create a very aromatic oil that will be the base of the flavor for your soup. Stir them pretty often since the garlic and green onions are diced pretty fine. We don't want any burnt flavor as the base of the soup. While you're gently frying the aromatics, open your canned clams. I'm using canned clams because that is what traditionally is used in Korea. Now let's go back to our pot. Add a tablespoon of fine Korean chili powder. Then add a level tablespoon of coarse Korean chili powder. Once both chili powders are added, we're going to cook off the rawness of both. Just be careful as the chili powder burns more easily than the garlic and green onions. Then add your ground pork and try to get some color on the pork. After 5 minutes, add your canned clams and fill up the container with the mushroom stock you have lying around. I would say it's best if you put a conservative amount of water at this point. When you add the tofu and the rest of the vegetables down the line, water is going to seep out and we don't want to dilute the soup too much. Let's add a half tablespoon of fish sauce to bring that umami and saltiness to the dish. Then let the broth simmer on low and close the lid. Now we're going to cut the tofu. So you can't buy just any regular tofu from the grocery store. You have to buy this extra soft tofu. I'm not an expert on the tofu making process, but essentially this tofu has not been strained numerous times, so there's more water that's retained and therefore it's softer. You can find this tofu in most Asian grocery stores, or you can just buy the softest tofu you can find at your local grocery store. Anyways, to take it out from the packaging, snip the 4 corners off. Slice through the middle of the package, then let the tofu just slide out. If you don't cut the 4 corners, the tofu gets stuck. Once the tofu is out, quarter the tofu into 4 chunks. We want large, bite-sized pieces. And with that, let's go back to the soup and add the rest of the veggies, including the diced up peppers, onions, and the sliced up dried mushrooms. Leave the green onions aside as they'll be used to top the soup. Then give the soup a good mix. Once mixed, add the 4 cubes of tofu gently into the soup so the hot boiling soup doesn't splash all over the place. Now with everything in here, adjust the seasoning. Since up until now we have been conservative with the amount of liquid we've introduced to the soup, if it's too salty or too spicy, add more mushroom stock or water. However, if it's too bland, then just add some more salt or chili flakes. This step is totally optional, but if you do like richness, adding an egg yolk on top is pretty delicious. When you add it and cover it over lid, it will just gently steam over the residual heat. And that's pretty much it. Sundubu-jjigae is spicy, rich, and full of flavor, perfect for warming up in the winter or beating the heat in the summer. I think it tastes even better than kimchi jjigae. Try it and let me know your preference. Thanks for watching, and I'll see everyone next time.